Incredible moment. Wheelchair girl surprises billionaire by asking to adopt her mom instead. Jamie stared at the prize money on the table the day after the competition, its glint unnervingly bright against the muted surroundings of their cramped living room. It seemed surreal. The grueling hours of research and late nights had finally culminated in something tangible. But as she caught her reflection in the glossy surface, her joy was tangled with dread. The prize could change everything, but she wasn't sure it was for herself. Would a mere scholarship truly matter in the grand scheme, when what she really wanted was to pull her mother out of the shadows of her unfulfilled dreams? The moment she won, she thought about Lisa, her mother, her everything. It was her mom who worked tirelessly, night after night, ensuring that Jamie had what she needed, even while her own dreams of becoming an artist were bulldozed under the crushing weight of bills and responsibility. Jamie felt torn, wanting to celebrate yet knowing that Lisa was the one who had made this possible. As she traced her fingers over the prize's page, Jamie's heart raced. Would she outright call out Evan Hawthorne, the billionaire who stood before her on that fateful day, and ask for her mother's dreams? Suddenly sitting in front of the man who held limitless power felt daunting. What was she thinking? The way his steely gaze swept over her was a harsh reminder of reality. Would he dismiss her like everyone else had? Years of being confined to this chair taught her to see the world through a different lens, yet here she was, preparing to confront societal structures far beyond her reach. A fierce bolt of determination erupted within her. This chance might be about her mother, yes, but the stakes felt impossibly high. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Trawling through myriad possibilities in her head wasn't like solving a math problem. Her thoughts felt like a raging storm. Jamie's fingers trembled against the slick pages as she rehearsed what to say. Should she talk about her mother's sacrifices? Offer a rational plea? Or go bold and raw, let herself feel the vulnerability that came with openly seeking love and support? Each external sound shifted her focus. A creaking floorboard or distant laughter only heightened her anxiety. The situation quickly escalated. In the midst of her whirlwind emotions, her eyes locked onto Evan's. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her shared life with Lisa, all the sacrifices they had made, the moments stolen by financial constraints. She couldn't outrun the racing heart and stuttering breath. When she finally spoke, the words came tumbling out. Mr. Hawthorne, I don't just want a scholarship, I need you to consider adopting my mom. The silence that followed felt suffocating, a tapestry woven tight with disbelief and shock, wrapping around her pulse. A room filled with potential faded away, shadows whispered doubt, and Jamie's resolve felt perilously fragile. Would the world judge her for asking such an audacious question? She could feel their eyes on her, pressing down, questioning. Did she dare to hope? As her request hung in the air like a delicate thread strung tight, Jamie faced the brimming uncertainty of family, ambition, and potential rejection. What had she ignited with that simple ask? A world she could barely grasp, yet desperately craved to hold on to, a future for her mother, a future for herself. She stared straight into the abyss of what might unfold next, her heart quickening in anticipation of the unpredictable. Storm brewing just around the corner. The silence was a weight, pressing against Jamie's chest as if the very air had thickened. Evan's expression shifted, from surprise to contemplation, and she felt a rush of heat crawl up her neck. What had she just done? She had opened a door that might lead to hope, but it also threatened to expose her deepest vulnerabilities. The tension in the room coiled tightly like a snake coiling for a strike. Adopt your mother? Evan's voice cut through the quiet, rich and deliberative. The words hung in the space between them, heavy with implications. Jamie could see his mind working, assessing, peeling back the layers of her audacious request. She prepared herself for dismissal, for the calculated moment when he would politely refuse, shattering her fragile dream. No one has ever asked me something like that, Evan finally said, his brow furrowing slightly as if he were wrestling with a puzzle whose pieces wouldn't align. A flicker of something curiosity, perhaps, danced behind his eyes, urging Jamie to lean further into this precarious moment. It was a glimmer, a thread of possibility she had not anticipated. What if you did? She urged, her voice steadying as she found her footing. You have the resources to give her the life she wanted. She's been putting my needs above her own for so long. I'm not asking for much, just a chance for her to pursue what she loves. Jamie's heart raced, each word bursting forth with newfound energy. The world outside her wheelchair faded away, all that mattered was the one chance to reshape their narrative. Evan's expression softened as if he glimpsed something deeper than the mere transactions of wealth and power. I appreciate your determination, but this is not something I can decide on a whim. There are legal implications, and personal costs to consider. Isn't that a part of what it means to help someone? Jamie shot back, her resolve swelling as she met his gaze with fierce intensity. Isn't the cost part of the joy? The words came out with increasing urgency. The rawness of her plea hung naked in the air, unprotected by societal niceties or fear of rejection. Jamie realized she was no longer a girl begging for scraps. She was a fierce advocate for the woman who had shaped her very being. Evan leaned back, clearly intrigued yet still wary. Jamie took the momentary pause as an invitation, not a setback. Look, I know this seems outrageous, but that's precisely why I'm asking you. You can't help but change lives. You did mine in a single moment of generosity, and I want that for my mom. She deserves more than just surviving, she deserves to thrive. As Jamie spoke, a new part of herself emerged from within, a tenacious spirit ready to fight for her history, her identity, and her mother. She could feel the seeds of growth clawing their way through the soil of doubt, promising more than just hope. They promised change. Let us meet again next week, Evan finally said, something akin to approval flashing in his eyes. I want to think this through properly. We'll explore your mother's situation and see what options we have. Relief washed over her then, but so did fear. What would this entail? Was she prepared to forge into this unknown territory, where the stakes were not only her trajectory but also her mother's dreams? Would she be able to cope with whatever challenges lay ahead? As she rolled away, a mixture of elation and dread coursed through Jamie's veins. She had opened the door, yes, but what consequences awaited them on the other side? A storm loomed on the horizon, unpredictable and fierce, inviting her to navigate its uncertainty. With every ounce of determination igniting within her, Jamie pondered her next move. This was only the beginning. She needed to prepare for her mother's reaction, Evan's inquiries, and ultimately, the confrontation of her own doubts about deserving this opportunity. The power she longed for, to change both their lives, felt just within reach. But would she accept the mantle of change? And how far would she venture to ensure her mother's dreams caught flame again? The following week arrived with an electric urgency that thrummed in Jamie's veins. Eyes heavy with both anticipation and fear, she rehearsed what she would say. Each scenario she plotted in her mind held its own set of anxieties, consequences that loomed like shadows behind every thoughtful phrase and edge of hope. As she wheeled into the familiar office space where Evan had met her before, the air crackled with the potential for change. This meeting was pivotal. The enormity of her last request lingered. It was no longer just a dream, it was a tangible path toward transformation. Evan stood by the expansive window, sunlight streaming through, illuminating the creases of concern etched on his brow. He greeted her with a nod, the tilt of his head laden with unspoken thoughts. She felt his assessment, the scrutiny of someone weighing the gravity of a decision that could not only shift lives but careers as well. I've been reviewing your mother's situation, he said, gesturing for her to take a seat. There are avenues we can explore, but I must caution you, this isn't a straightforward process. His words brought a chill, stark against the warmth of the sunshine. Tell me, Jamie urged, leaning forward, urgency clawing at her throat. What did you find? What options do we have? There was no backing down now. She would not shy away from information that could shift the balance in her mother's life. He paused, searching for the right words as if he feared their weight. Your mother's current job provides a semblance of stability, but it is limiting her scope for growth. Financially, it would take significant investment to make a move that would change her prospects. What about you? Jamie interjected, her heart racing. If you adopt her, that changes everything. The financial burden shifts, she gains opportunities, and she can truly pursue what she loves. Evan's gaze drifted from her to the cityscape outside, calculations visible in the tightening of his lips. I don't simply take on responsibilities without understanding the implications. Adopting an adult is fraught with complications and emotional entanglements. There are reputational risks, financial audits, personal relationship dynamics isn't that what life is about. Jamie interjected, her voice gaining strength. It's messy. It's complicated. If it weren't, we wouldn't need people like you in the world, right? You have the power to make a significant change. With every word, she felt her footing firm up under her. This was not just advocacy for her mother anymore, this was Jamie asserting her place in the conversation, dismantling the boundaries of doubt that had once confined her voice. And what about you? Evan turned the conversation back to her. Are you emotionally prepared for what this means? For the attention this could attract, the challenges you might face? He had drawn the line. A pause hung between them, palpable. Jamie's mind raced, experiences flashing through her like a montage of her life: the isolation, the struggles of navigating her world, the overwhelming determination to uplift her mother. I'm ready to fight for her, Evan, she stated, conviction flowing like a current beneath her words. For both of us. This isn't just about us, it's about fully living whatever that means, even if it's messy. Evan looked at her then, an unreadable expression on his face. Slowly, the corners of his mouth turned up in a hint of a smile, an acknowledgement of her strength. It sounds like we need to craft a plan, then. A rush of exhilaration surged within her. This was liberation. With strategic discussions ahead, Jamie felt every ounce of her purpose solidify. They would navigate those challenging waters together, alongside her mother, an alliance forged not merely through necessity but through shared dreams. As they dove into logistics, Jamie began to visualize steps she could take not only to help her mother but also to refine her own sense of agency and resilience. Each decision crystallized her desire to forge a path where dreams were not just whispered about in the night but lived in broad daylight. But as they outlined the possibilities, another nagging thought emerged. What if her mother didn't want the change? Would Jamie be prepared to face that reality? With a determined heart racing toward an uncertain horizon, she understood that while they planned for the future, she simultaneously needed to prepare for a confrontation that could shake the very foundations of her intent. Would her mother embrace the changes waiting for her, or would Jamie have to confront yet another hurdle in this journey toward liberation? The days that followed the meeting with Evan felt transformative yet disorienting. Jamie's mind churned constantly, fueled by excitement and fear. Each evening, she sat in her dimly lit apartment, staring at her laptop, the glow illuminating her determined expression. Research filled her nights, the complexities of adult adoption, the legal requirements, and most importantly, the emotional implications. She poured her energy into learning, dissecting the barriers that lay ahead. Her days was punctuated by a new routine. Morning walks became a ritual, where she'd map out her thoughts while navigating the familiar contours of the neighborhood. The air was crisp and invigorating, inspiring clarity as she breathed deeply, envisioning their future. Jamie started to weave her aspirations tightly with those of her mother, hoping each step she took would turn the gears toward change. On Wednesday, she gathered the courage to bring up the potential transformation over dinner as they shared a simple meal of pasta. It had been a while since they had engaged in deeper conversations. Life's challenges often dulled their connection. What do you think about looking for a new job, Mom? She ventured, watching for any spark of interest or resistance. Something that's more aligned with what you want? Her mother looked up, fork poised midair. I have a job, Jamie. It's safe, and it pays the bills. Why change that? The answer cut through Jamie, but she pressed on, infusing determination into her tone. But is it really what makes you happy? What if you could pursue something that fulfills you? The tension in the room danced between them, unspoken fears and dreams swirling like a storm. Jamie's heart quaked with concern. Would her mother ever be ready to embrace the idea of a broader horizon? Sometimes change isn't what we want. It's just a risk, her mother replied, the weight of her resignation heavy in the air. Jamie sighed, the conversation dissolving into silence. A feeling of inadequacy washed over her, as if she had reached for the stars, only to realize she was anchored by earth. It was an early test of her resolve. The next day, she poured that frustration into drafting a plan to present to Evan. A blueprint outlining not only the adoption steps but how she could advocate for her mother. Jamie took meticulous note of which community resources could integrate seamlessly into their tactical approach. Seeking educational programs that could help her mother pivot, classes that could stoke old passions, anything to ignite the flame of possibility. When she returned to Evan's office the following week, she felt different, armed with knowledge and insight. The atmosphere buzzed with potential, echoing her inner turmoil as she laid her ideas on Evan's desk like a treasure map. He listened, eyebrows arched, impressed by her ambition. Will you support these ideas? Jamie's gaze was fierce and unwavering. I believe we can overhaul everything, but I need your expertise. Evan leaned back, mulling over her suggestions. You've matured, Jamie. But remember, these are still big strides to take, not just for your mother, but for you too. The emotional weight could become overwhelming. I'm prepared for it, Jamie insisted. The growing trust between them brewed a newfound resilience within her. If we are going to do this, I need to face every hurdle head-on, especially with her. Evan regarded her silently, perhaps measuring the conviction that pulsed through her veins. It was a fresh kind of fearlessness that anchored her against the odds. As discussions shifted to logistics once more, Jamie's mind wandered. She longed for her mother to appreciate the potential change in her life, but would she ever shake off the chains of complacency? The stakes were indeed high, propelling her not just to fight for her mother, but ultimately, for herself. Days later, after hours spent gathering her thoughts and attempting to anticipate every possible outcome, Jamie dialed her mother. The anticipation gnawed at her. This time, she would reveal everything: the plan, the hope. The future she envisioned, inviting her mother to join the journey of change. As the phone rang, she realized, whether her mother was receptive or not, she had crossed a crucial threshold of bravery for both of them. The answer clicked. It's time to talk, Mom, she said softly, the vulnerability stripping her down, yet clutching optimism fiercely. Is it about that job again? Her mother replied, her voice tinged with apprehension. No, Jamie declared, gathering all her strength. It's about us. The new battle had begun. Would her mother's resistance melt in the warmth of possibility, or would Jamie discover a new side of her mother's fear that stood barbed against her desires? The silence that fell after Jamie's declaration felt heavy, like a curtain draping over a stage before the first act begins. Her mother's breath caught on the line, anticipation mingling with anxiety. Jamie's heart raced as she fought against the instinct to withdraw. This was her moment to forge a new path, not just for her mother but for herself. About us? What do you mean? Her mother finally asked, the quiver in her voice betraying the vulnerability that often lay beneath her steadfast exterior. Jamie took a breath, steadying her voice despite the tumult inside. I've been thinking a lot about us, about what we both want. I want to support you in finding what makes you happy. I've been doing a lot of research. She had rehearsed these words in her mind countless times, but the truth felt raw and authentic as it spilled out. And I think we can start a new chapter together. I want to adopt you as my mother. The silence that followed felt infinite, stretching out into the unknown. Jamie's pulse thundered as she awaited her mother's reaction. She could almost hear her thoughts whirring, contemplating the ramifications, the practicalities, the emotions. It was daunting and fraught with the weight of past conversations. Jamie could practically feel the tension seep into every fiber of the call. Jamie, her mother's voice broke through, trembling at the edges. You know, this isn't something we can just wish into reality. It's not that simple. There was a blend of concern and disbelief, as if they were standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into an abyss. I know it's complicated, but I believe in change. We can work together on this. Jamie's insistence fortified her resolve. This was not just a plea, it was a declaration, an invitation to reclaim agency over their lives. I was even thinking we could look for workshops, things that spark joy for you, and maybe explore this together. For a brief moment, there seemed to be a shift, a flicker of interest sparking in her mother's voice. Like painting classes? The question felt almost tentative, as if resurrecting a long-dormant dream. Yes. Or anything else you've always wanted to try. Jamie exclaimed, the thrill of hope igniting her. We could make a list, what do you think? There was a pause, and Jamie could almost hear the wheels turning in her mother's mind, weighing hope against decades of resignation. I don't want to uproot my life without a reason, Jamie. Especially at my age. The phrase "at my age" hung heavily, laced with resignation. Jamie recognized the limitations her mother placed upon herself, those self-imposed barriers forged through years of obligation and fear. But what if this could give us stories, dreams to share? It doesn't have to mean everything will change overnight. Just a step, 2 steps. Learning together. I don't know, her mother murmured, the uncertainty swirling like fog in the air. It was a defense mechanism rooted deep, and Jamie could feel her frustration mounting. How could she help her mother unravel the narratives that kept her bound? Mom, don't you see? It's not just about the job or our relationships, it's about us finding that joy together. You deserve to feel alive. Each word was laden with conviction, pushing back against the walls her mother had built. The conversation shifted, and Jamie noticed her mother softening, a vulnerable thread of curiosity tugging at her resolve. I'll think about it, her mother finally said, tone surprising Jamie with a mix of reluctance and tentative hope. The call ended with Jamie's heart racing. It wasn't the resounding agreement she had yearned for, but it was progress, a shimmer of light breaking through the clouds. This new commitment could open a door previously thought sealed shut. Jamie hung up, staring at the wall, thoughts racing. She was beginning to carve out a narrative not just in her mother's life but in her own. Yet as the adrenaline died down, doubt began to creep back in. Was any of this truly achievable? And if so, what would it really cost them both? Determined to fan the flames of this newfound possibility, she decided to reach out to Evan once again, seeking guidance on the next steps, desperately crafting an actionable plan. But in the pit of her stomach, a deeper question lingered. Was she fully prepared for the emotional hurdles ahead, ones which would test the very fabric of their relationship? And what if her mother chose to remain tethered to the past? Would Jamie have the courage to forge ahead alone, no matter the cost? After hanging up, Jamie felt a whirlwind of emotions coursing through her. The exhilaration of having spoken her truth was quickly dissipating, replaced by anxiety. Doubt whispered sinister thoughts into her mind. Was she truly ready to lead this charge? Could she uphold the energy of her dream while guiding her mother along a path that seemed so absurdly optimistic? She shook her head, forcing herself to focus. She needed a plan. If her mother was considering the prospect of rediscovering joy, asserting control over their lives, then Jamie had to prepare herself for every possible reaction, every obstacle. With a swift motion, she grabbed her laptop, wanting to document her thoughts, strategize, and make it real. The cool glow of the screen illuminated her determined expression as Jamie typed rapidly, laying out the various workshop ideas she'd stumbled upon during her research. Art classes, pottery sessions, even a cooking workshop that promised to teach participants how to brew traditional recipes. Each idea sparkled with potential. She envisioned transformations, flashes of inspiration that could set off a chain reaction of experiences in their lives. However, a nagging doubt disrupted her eagerness. What if her mother hesitated to even consider these activities? What if she dismissed every notion as frivolous? Jamie's fingers froze over the keyboard. She clenched her jaw and leaned back in her chair. It wasn't just about activities, it was about creating an atmosphere of experimentation, of discovering new identities. Would she be ready to stand firm against the skepticism? Taking a deep breath, Jamie reminded herself that she had been down this road before. Progress never came without resistance. Just like her own journey through the past years, the countless pushes against barriers placed by the expectations of others. She had fought for herself and, though this was different, the core essence remained, the pursuit of authenticity. She abruptly stood up, pushing away from the desk, her heart quickening. It was time to confront her own fears. If she wanted to help her mother weave a new narrative, she must first embody her own. Jamie picked up her phone, torn between reaching out to Evan for his guidance or diving deeper into her own exploration. A clearer picture formed in her mind. She needed to show her mother that change was possible, that life could be vibrantly different regardless of the age-related fears that haunted her. But how could she authentically convey that conviction? Perhaps it was time she tapped into her own potential for artistic expression, something she had long ignored. The idea of picking up a paintbrush filled her with an unexpected jitter of excitement paired with the acids of anxiety. That night, Jamie attended a local art class. Entering the studio, she was enveloped by the palpable energy of colors and creativity. The scent of paint and the rustle of canvas ignited something inside her, a reminder that formation takes place through expression. Finding a corner, she let herself jump into the flow, unleashing years of pent-up tension over the blank canvas. As she applied each stroke, she realized this was not merely about creating art but about forging a connection with her own evolving identity. She allowed the emotions of uncertainty and hope to meld into something tangible. When she looked at her work, now splattered with a blend of colors, she felt a sense of empowerment rising within her. When her phone buzzed later, Evan's name lighting up the screen, she glanced at her painting, now proudly tucked behind her, a physical manifestation of her resolve. "Let's talk," she replied, determination flooding through her veins. The next chapter loomed ready with the tantalizing question: would she be able to share her new insight with her mother, or would the duality of their paths continue to diverge? And would she have the courage to confront the obstacles that lay ahead, not just for her mother but for herself? Jamie woke early, her heart pounding with newfound purpose. The darkness had yet to lift, but a sense of urgency propelled her out of bed. Today would be different. Today, she would face her mother. She glanced at her painting once more. It stood as a beacon of proof that she not only had the resolve to create but also the need to share that transformation with someone who mattered deeply to her. The sun crested the horizon, spilling light across her bedroom and illuminating her resolve. She dressed quickly, sliding into a pair of jeans and a comfortable sweater. Her attire mirrored her practicality and readiness to take on the day. Her mind skittered over the list of workshop ideas she had drafted, and she mentally prepared how to present them in a way that her mother could appreciate. Simplicity would be key. She needed to resonate with her mother's fears and boredom yet infiltrate her world with possibilities. Mid-morning, after practically pacing, Jamie summoned her courage as she stood outside her mother's door. The soft hum of her mother's activities unfolded from within, the quiet clinks of dishes and the muted tones of a day unfolding. As Jamie raised a hand to knock, a flash of doubt rippled through her. It was a different frontier she was entering, tinged with the shadows of her mother's expectations. Would her mother be willing to embrace the unfamiliar? "Mom?" she ventured, her voice tentative but firm. Her mother opened the door and greeted her with a hesitant smile. "Jamie, what's up?" Jamie stepped inside the cozy, lived-in home that held both comfort and constraints. "Can we talk?" "I've been thinking." An eyebrow rose, and Jamie's heart raced. "About what, dear?" This was the moment she had rehearsed in her mind countless times. With a steadying breath, Jamie laid out her ideas: art classes, cooking workshops, and poetry nights, all places she envisioned her mother exploring buried passions. Each suggestion sparked glimmers of interest, but Jamie saw the flickers of skepticism lurking behind her mother's eyes. She pressed on, weaving her own experiences with artistry, shedding the uncomfortable layers of uncertainty that had long clung to her spirit. "Creating something isn't just about the finished piece, Mom," she leaned in, urgency flooding her tone. "It's about the journey of discovering parts of yourself you didn't know existed. Just like I did last night." But Jamie saw a barrier rising. Her mother's gaze shifted, tightening into a frown that revealed a mixture of fear and resignation. "Jamie, it all sounds lovely, but you know I'm not the same as I was. Getting involved with unfamiliar things feels impractical. Jamie sensed the weight of the word's practicality, a habit that had worn her mother down through the years. But Jamie couldn't relent. What if I joined you? We could do this together, she offered, allowing vulnerability to bridge the gap between them. The offer hung in the air, thick with potential, yet her mother only sighed, the shadows deepening in her expression. You don't understand. The world feels so different when you've settled into routines. Change is more intimidating than exciting. Change is only terrifying when you resist it, Jamie interrupted, her frustration surfacing. Each word felt like a defense against encroaching doubt. I have learned that. We can each unlearn the limits we've placed on ourselves. Her mother's gaze met hers, questioning, the walls of distance starting to chip away just enough for intricate emotions to weave between them. Jamie sensed a breakthrough looming, but before it could fully materialize, her mother stepped back, visibly retreating within layers of familiar fear. Let me think about it, she murmured, without any conviction. The conversation had ebbed, and Jamie felt the resolve slip. Perhaps it wasn't enough. The gap between them seemed insurmountable. Jamie exited the house, her pulse racing not with excitement but with desperation. She'd hoped to inspire, but the shadow of doubt crept back around her. Maybe she was merely channeling her hopes into another fantasy. But as she moved, she considered Evan's reaction, how he would encourage persistence against the tide of skepticism. Then the idea struck her, change could sprout from tangible challenges, and she needed to confront her own reality more. As she took a deep breath, resolve stiffened in her spine. If her mother wouldn't follow, perhaps striking out on her own path would clarify the way forward. She envisioned direct action laden with meaningful intention, not just art but community projects that could draw her mother slowly out of her shell. Perhaps a performance art piece aimed at opening dialogues about rediscovering joy could funnel their lives into a shared mission. With this newfound determination pressing against her chest, Jamie texted Evan again, but now with clarity. I need your expertise. Let us organize something bold. I'll share everything I've thought and we'll brainstorm. The connection between her ambitions and her mother's struggles began morphing into something more potent than either could have anticipated. In this newfound light, Jamie understood that her journey was just beginning, and she was prepared to dive into the murky depths to fish out both her own and her mother's potential. Would the next encounter with her mother yield breakthroughs, or would she face objections that test her resolve on every level? As the sun dipped lower, Jamie braced for the unexpected, ready to face the dark waters ahead. Jamie's restless energy morphed into a structured plan over the next few days. She sought to harness the swirling thoughts and emotions into a clear trajectory. No longer plagued with ambiguity, she embraced the myriad of ideas dancing through her mind. They needed form, urgency, the kind that could fluster all who hesitated in embracing change. After reaching out to Evan, they met in a small cafe cloaked in familiar scents of roasted beans and pastries. The crowded atmosphere invigorated her senses, grounding her purpose within the chaos. With each sip of coffee, Jamie shared her vision art that could strip away the layers of everyday monotony, allowing community dialogues to unfold. Evan leaned back in his chair, his expression shifting from curiosity to admiration. What if we create an immersive performance piece, something that draws people in emotionally? It could be based on forging connections, something that reflects both struggle and transformation. A surge of energy flowed through Jamie as she brainstormed with Evan. She felt authentic creativity bursting forth inside her, weaving threads of inspiration from their ideas. They jotted down concepts and sketched outlines on napkins as Jamie's dream shifted into a collective project. As the reality she envisioned materialized, apprehension transformed into purpose. That afternoon, Jamie displayed her confidence. She wandered through her neighborhood, approaching local shops and community bulletin boards. She posted flyers about their upcoming performance art piece Rediscovering Joy, a journey of reunion. The title felt like an echo of her own journey, merging her experiences with a broader narrative that could resonate on multiple levels. The steps she took resonated with her upbringing, bridging the gap between her artistic aspirations and the community's heartbeat. With every conversation, Jamie encountered a kaleidoscope of reactions. Some were sprinkled with excitement while others radiated caution. Skepticism lingered like a shadow, nudging at her resolve, but each response fortified her determination. Perhaps this venture wouldn't just be a reflection of her own life but could serve as a mirror for those who feared change. The nightly discussions with Evan blossomed. In their shared excitement, she found clarity in her ambitions, revealing hidden talents she had previously tucked away. Each brainstorming session illuminated facets of her personality she had neglected in the shadow of caring for her mother. Jamie grew bolder in her revisions and adaptations, willing to challenge every concept without fear the earlier specter of self-doubt had withered in the face of progress. But even amidst her fervor, the looming confrontation with her mother remained. With each passing day, Jamie's resolve deepened. Yet the anticipation sparked a jolt of fear. What if her mother remained firmly entrenched in her skepticism? What if her efforts surged ahead without her mother's acceptance undermining everything? Determined to confront this impending anxiety, Jamie visualized a concise approach for their next interaction, one where she could offer her mother a tangible entry point into her aspirations. She could invite her to the performance. It shifted into her strategy, not an ultimatum but an invitation to rediscover joy side by side. However, in this excitement, doubts still lurked. Her mother's fears hung heavy above her head, threatening to choke the hope that had begun to blossom. The very thought of facing her mother again sent a tremor through her, a reminder of how delicate the balance between hope and fear remained. As she prepared for the next encounter, Jamie felt an urgency coalesce within her. It was time to articulate her vision, not just for the performance but for their relationship, built on mutual respect and understanding. Jamie sensed that the real challenge lay before her, facing her mother's skepticism while conveying unwavering belief in their journey together. Would this time yield a breakthrough or deepen the chasm between them? The tension escalated as she picked up her phone to confront her deepest uncertainty. How could she ensure that her mother understood the power of change they both so desperately needed? The answer seemed tantalizingly close, forcing Jamie to confront the ultimate question of her journey. If she focused her passion outward, would it inspire her mother to embrace her own transformation? In the quiet moments before their meeting, Jamie's heart raced with a blend of anticipation and dread. She stared out the window, watching the shadows grow long as evening descended. The world outside seemed to buzz with life, juxtaposing her internal chaos. With every tick of the clock, the thought of facing her mother felt like both an imperative and an impending dread. Jamie recalled the past, the moments spent whispering her dreams into the night. Now, she needed to find words that would convey her transformation, not just for herself but for a relationship that had simmered under the weight of unspoken words and fears. Would her mother recognize the passionate flame within her? Or would she see only the flickering uncertainty, echoing her own fears? Determined, Jamie drew a deep breath and crafted a clear message. She would lead with sincerity. She envisioned her mother's eyes, those same eyes that often held a tapestry of worry and resignation. Would they soften, even briefly, at the mention of rediscovering joy? Would her mother grasp how deeply intertwined their paths had become? Arriving at her mother's home, each floorboard creaked beneath Jamie's advancing footsteps felt like a countdown. She entered to the comforting scent of her mother's favorite lavender candles, a remnant of childhood safety amidst an adult landscape she was still trying to navigate with confidence. There sat her mother, engrossed in her usual routines, adrift in familiar melancholy, a stark contrast to Jamie's newfound zeal. "Mom, can we talk?" Jamie began, her voice steadier than she felt. The moment stretched between them, heavy with the rocks of unspoken words. She could sense her mother's apprehension, the defensive posture taken at the first sign of change. "What about?" her mother replied, an edge of wariness threading through the words. Jamie's heart sank briefly. "I've been working on something." Jamie hesitated, the fear of her mother's judgment overwhelming her. But this was a pivotal moment, and it demanded clarity. "It's a performance piece about connection, about rediscovering joy in our lives." Her mother's expression shifted. "A performance? But you've never..." "I know. But it's not just about art, it's about us, about our lives. I want you to see it. To be part of this journey with me." The vulnerability in Jamie's admission caught her by surprise, yet it felt liberating. Could this invitation, devoid of expectations but filled with sincerity, shift the air between them? The pause grew palatable. Jamie held her breath, scanning her mother's features for any sign of acceptance. "I just don't think it's practical," her mother finally replied, the familiar shield coming down around her. "It's not about practicality. It's about exploring what joy could mean for us both." Jamie's challenge cracked the armor, and for the first time, she witnessed a flicker of something curiosity, perhaps fear cross her mother's face. "What if I can't relate to this? What if I don't understand?" The force of the question struck Jamie deeply. It became clear that this was not merely about the performance. It was a mirror reflecting their past and present, and in it, a question of if they could pivot together toward an uncertain future. "Then let us figure it out together," Jamie implored, feeling the weight of expectation shift. "You don't have to understand everything. But I'd love for you to see how much I believe in this." Just before her mother could respond, the vulnerability of that moment dissolved into tension. Jamie feared her mother might retreat further into skepticism. A beat passed, heavy with possibilities. "Will you come?" she pressed, longing for a sign, some glimmer of connection. The question hung thick in the air, poised to either bridge the gap or deepen their divide. As her mother stared back, thoughtfully weighing her next words, Jamie felt a pulse surge through her. This was her moment of truth, the moment that could redefine both their lives. Would her mother step into the light, or would they remain ensnared in the shadows of the past? The air thickened, the answer teetering just within reach, yet tantalizingly out of grasp as Jamie held her breath. The days turned into weeks as Jamie prepared for the performance art piece, Rediscovering Joy, a journey of reunion. Each moment she poured into the project felt intertwined with tentative hope and fierce determination. Collaborating with Evan, their brainstorming sessions transformed into a sanctuary of creativity. No longer merely a vessel for her own aspirations, Jamie began to represent a wider potential, a bridge between ordinary struggles and extraordinary possibilities. As the performance day approached, Jamie couldn't shake the anxiety knotting her stomach. Despite her own growth, doubts overshadowed her vision. Would her mother truly embrace what Jamie was fighting to create? Would the event be a catalyst for both their lives, or would it deepen the divide that had long shaped their relationship? On the day of the performance, Jamie arrived at the venue, a cozy art gallery adorned in vibrant canvases and breathtaking installations. She took a deep breath, her nerves electrifying the air. As she greeted the community members, their genuine excitement radiated warmth. It fueled her resolve. She could see it now. The relationships blossomed in the space created by artistic ambition and authenticity. As she navigated the evening's proceedings, her mind flickered back to those early, vulnerable moments when she had first proposed her mother's involvement. She longed to spark that spark of inspiration within Lisa, their stories interwoven within the intimate artistry of that night. As the audience gathered, anticipation crackled through the atmosphere. The room dimmed, and Jamie took her place at the center. Evan stood by her side, offering silent support. Overhead lights softened to project haunting imagery, stark against the walls, illuminating the depths of their shared struggles. Taking a deep breath, Jamie began to tell their story through art. She portrayed the poignant balance between losing oneself in duty and reclaiming joy through vulnerability. Each brushstroke on an oversized canvas reflected moments from their lives' sacrifice, resilience, and the longing for dreams to flourish. As Jamie poured her heart into the piece, she pulled from her own journey and, at times, from the collective struggles surrounding her. Layers of fear and hope merged in a swirling motion, a visual manifestation of the uncharted territories they both faced. Yet, in those spiraling layers, Jamie seized the opportunity to convey a deeper message, an invitation for her mother, an acknowledgement that they could navigate fear together. Each brushstroke honored the power of creating space for growth, surrendering to the complexities of transformation. The moment came when Jamie turned to the audience, addressing her mother and the crowd, her heart racing. "This is a journey one I've traveled to rediscover joy. And it's so much more meaningful when shared." The audience was palpable, suspended in the atmosphere of emotion and possibility. As the final brushstroke landed on the canvas, the room erupted in applause and acknowledgement, not just for the final product, but for the story it told. Jamie felt light. She had conquered a fear that had haunted her and transformed it into shared celebration. In that swirling whirlpool of applause, Jamie met her mother's gaze, who sat slightly apart, shadows of skepticism mixing with something new. Hesitation danced on Lisa's face, but Jamie saw the glimmer of something: curiosity, perhaps, or recognition of their intertwined journey. Jamie stepped off stage and approached her mother, heart racing. "Mom, what did you think?" Her voice trembled with hope. "It was beautiful, Jamie," Lisa replied, the tremor of vulnerability lacing her words. "But it's a huge leap. Can we truly confront our fears?" "Yes," Jamie asserted, an unyielding fierceness swelling within her. "We can reshape our destinies together. Let us explore new paths. It starts here." The nod her mother offered set off a cascade of emotions in Jamie's heart. The barriers that had confined them were starting to crack under the weight of acknowledgement and willingness. Lisa's skepticism transitioned into understanding, and Jamie could feel at this moment captured by creativity extended into newfound hope. Through their shared expression, they had begun to transcend the walls that had felt insurmountable only weeks before. Weeks turned into months as they navigated uncharted territories, deepening their relationship while embracing the gift of change. Jamie recognized herself transforming alongside her mother, both women growing into versions of themselves that they had long buried beneath fears and obligations. As they ventured into art classes together, painting, pottery, cooking, each session paid homage to their shared narratives, binding them closer in the exploration of dreams unclaimed. Jamie felt solid confidence in her decisions and an established sense of competence in both her craft and her advocacy for her mother. At the end of each week, Jamie reflected on her journey, proud of her accomplishments. She had confronted profound challenges and redefined both their lives, but more importantly, she discovered how to advocate for herself, understanding that transformation began from within. Recognition came in unexpected shapes. From the audience gathered at their performance, an art critic wrote a piece that echoed the challenges and triumphs that enveloped both women, a testament to their perseverance. Their story went public, a narrative that resonated with many, drawing in a community seeking inspiration. One afternoon, as Jamie watched her mother explore her art with renewed vigor, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Their relationship was no longer tethered to obligation but buoyed by shared dreams. Jamie had achieved her intent both for herself and her mother. They stood together poised at the precipice of an exhilarating future. In the twilight of that moment, Jamie grasped one undeniable truth: transformation is an ongoing journey, marked by achievements of the individual, sedimented in a foundation built on love, resilience, and shared hope. She stood confidently, resolved to forge ahead. Now was the time for others to hear her story and recognize their own capacity for change. Today was the day she decided to share their journey with the world in a way that would empower others to embrace their transformations. Let the first mark of that new chapter in life resonate with your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.